This is Jeremy Carlson, and you're listening to the Bluegrass Sports Performance Podcast. Today, we are talking with Coach Tyler Franklin, the athletic performance coach from Murray High School. Tyler, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. How about you, Jeremy?
I'm doing great. Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Before we really get going, I was just hoping you could tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, just kind of give us the brief overview of who you are, and then I'll kind of poke into it a little bit.
All right, man. I guess we can start in high school. Born in California, but I moved to Tennessee, West Tennessee, roughly 5th, 6th grade. Grew up, graduated from Hardin County High School in West Tennessee. Played baseball and football in high school, and then just college. Went to a junior college, Motlow State in East Tennessee. And then finished my baseball career at Freed-Hardeman University, pitching there. Got my degree in exercise science, didn't know what the crap I wanted to do. So our coach offered a grad assistant position, get my master's paid for, and I wanted to go in education. So I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess that sounds cool. Free schools for me. So grad assistant coach for 2 years, and then ran their weight programming. And looking back now, man, I didn't know anything. Not that I know anything now, but especially back then. Graduated from there, was going to try to find a teaching job, and it took me a year and a half to find a PE job. Strength and conditioning, as far as being in school, was not a thing whenever I graduated. Finally got a teaching job and coached baseball and taught middle school PE until was in Columbia, Tennessee, just below Nashville. Taught middle school baseball and PE, and then met my wife playing. I play music on the weekends here and there, and met her. She's from Murray, moved to Murray, Kentucky, and taught 4 years at Lone Oak Middle School in Paducah, driving an hour every day to work. Coached baseball there, and then a PE job came open at Murray High, where I'm at now, 4 years ago. And luckily, the new principal that had just come in, I was an acquaintance with. He worked in the same system as me in McCracken. And going into the interview, I just thought it was for a PE and health for high school. And I was like, I don't want any part of that. I don't want to teach, regular PE and especially health, being in the classroom. But I'm going to go. He wanted me to come interview, so I'm going to go interview and get in the interview. And he said, well, we've got a PE and a health job open, and I've started this new strength and conditioning class. And so whenever he said that, I was like, all right, that sounds interesting. Ended up getting the job offer and been here at Murray High for 4 years doing the advanced PE class, athletic performance class that we do. And I love it, man. Looking back 4 years ago, compared, not that I know a lot now, but it's been a venture trying to figure out how to get all these different sports that are in the same class with me in a not so big weight room, but I'm a lot better today than I was yesterday. And so that's pretty much the roundabout way of how I got to Murray, Kentucky.
I love it. And I think the one thing that I really can latch onto with that is everybody takes a slightly different path to get to where they are, right? And
right.
It sounds like you didn't have the quote unquote traditional path, which is refreshing to hear, because we see it a lot of times where we have people that get into the strength and conditioning field, do their undergrad, then after undergrad, they go do some type of internship, they go to some type of assistant role, and then eventually a head role. And I think as we continue to expand the high school realm, especially in the state of Kentucky, I think it's going to only continue to expand the options that people have. And that's kind of my hope in highlighting people like you, because you do great work. I mean, it's been fun to follow you along and your athletic department along over the past couple of years to see the growth of the program. So talk to me a little bit about Murray itself, right? So help us out with location. So I'm from Seattle, Washington. I'm not from around here, so a little bit different, but both West Coast guys. So that's kind of fun to hear about. Right. talk to me about where Murray is, where it's located. I'm pretty sure it's an independent school. Just kind of give us a little bit of background of Murray so that we can understand, because eventually when we go and talk about this programming, I think that really does impact how we start thinking about your programming. It's a little bit different than if you're working at a St. X or a Trinity. Those come with their own challenges, but Murray's going to be a little bit different, unique situation. So go into that for a little bit.
We like I said, we're an independent school. I think this is our biggest student population this year, and we're right at 550 or 560, 9 through 12.
Does that make you guys a 1A or 2A? Do you know off the top of your head?
I believe we're 1A. It's weird. I think we're like maybe 2A in football, but 1A in other sports. Yeah. I don't know how any of that works. But I think a 1A is what we're actually classified as. And we've got a county school, Callaway County, which is what Murray's in. I believe they're 2A, so they're just a little bit bigger than us. But we're right on the Tennessee line, above Paris, Tennessee, here in West Kentucky. And being a small school, we got a ton of athletes that play more than one sport, you know. But it's just a small little town. Murray State is the college that's in our town, John Morant University.
Yep.
But other than that, man, I like Murray. It's not too big, small, quaint town.
Nice.
And I love our student population here. So
that's awesome. So you got 500 students, and you're going to, for the most part, every school is going to offer generally the same thing, right? So go into the sports that you guys have got at Murray, and then we'll dig into that a little bit more, because that does become unique when you're working with 500 student athletes. But that means that they could end up playing, 2 sports in one season at times.
Oh, for sure. And we've got a couple guys that play football and soccer. Soccer's in the fall right now. But we've got football, volleyball, soccer, basketball, baseball, softball. We got track, cross country. We've got a swim team, a golf team. I don't think I'm missing any. We got an archery team. I don't deal with any archery students that I know of. I think that covers all the sports.
No, absolutely. No, that helps. So then start going into a little bit about your classes. Give us if you're going to paint a picture of, what Murray County, and talk a little bit about too, not just about your classes, but, Bell's schedule, different things like that. Cause that, again, as we go into your programming, that's going to dictate a lot of things that you have to choose between. So give us the general outline of school starts when, it ends when, kind of what your schedule looks like on that front.
All right. I think the first bell rings at 8:15, or the tardy bell's at 8:15. First class starts at 8:15, and we have 7 50-minute classes, and there might be a couple minutes here and there different for announcements, stuff like that. So I've got my planning's first hour, so I've got 6 50-minute classes. By the time they get time to change, I'm dealing with 40 minutes a day. Mm-hmm. But the good thing about being on the schedule we're on, opposed to the block schedule, and I don't know how many schools in Kentucky still have the block schedule where they're 4 classes a day. I get them all year. Mm-hmm. Now, if I could have an hour and a half every day for a full year, that would be ideal, optimal. Mm-hmm. But the fact that I'm able to get them all year and not have to get rid of them at the end of the semester helps as far as just progressing in their athletic development,
So do you get them when they sign up in classes for August? What you're telling me is you got them all the way till May. Guaranteed you got them all the way to May. It's not a semester and then they change out type of thing.
Now freshmen's a little tricky because freshmen are required to take the traditional health and PE. Mm-hmm. Well, the first semester he does PE, so I can get those freshmen the first semester in my class, and it counts as their PE towards that health and PE. Okay. And they'll be leaving me the second semester to go to health. But I offer 7 in the morning, Monday through Friday, the same thing we're doing in our class. So any of those freshmen that are going to leave me, they'll be morning if they can get up that early. And most of them will, but they won't technically be with me in my class per se the second semester. But sophomores on, and there's loopholes to that. But yeah, I have them from August to May. And then there's soccer, volleyball, and some baseball players that I'll see during the summer. Like any sport, I don't do anything with the football during the summer. Their coach deals with all that. But some of these kids, I mean, I'm seeing year round, including summer until dead period hits.
That's awesome, because that's one of the unique things is for me when I dropped down from the college level to the high school level, that I was really interested to see how it was going to work. And something that I really enjoyed about this past year, I didn't really get it last year when I dropped down from my college level down to the high school level, because I didn't start until technically August, so I couldn't start working with the kids until then. But this past few months, I was able to actually work with them, and I found it really rewarding because I got to control a lot of those programming things for them year round, as opposed to college where, we were fortunate enough to get them for, if it was a soccer player, we got them in season maybe once or twice a week.
Right.
They wouldn't see us until after the season, which really meant they didn't see us because they had 4 weeks off for winter break. We didn't see them until January, spring season started, and then they were out and they were away from us. So it only felt like we got like 8 weeks with them, and 8 weeks out of 52 doesn't really cut it in terms of development. And it's been great to drop down to the high school level. Now it maybe come with a little extra work, but it's so much more rewarding because you get to see that. So it's great to hear that you're being able to do some of those things with them. So you've got 6 periods, and it sounded like is there one other health PE teacher that does night?
Yeah. He strictly does like your classic PE where you're playing games and stuff, and for a semester, and then he's got health that he'll teach a semester. But we don't, I mean, it would be nice if I had an assistant. I'd be able to do a lot more.
Yeah.
As far as being specific to each sport, because I mean, it's a mixture of students in my class. I'll have football, soccer, baseball in one class, and I'll have some students that don't even play a sport that are in there. And those are usually my ones that are the most fun to work with, because you see they don't have any clue about sports or, moving. So to see the progress in those kids is, I want to say more special, but I mean, it's special to see some of those kids get stronger and do things that they didn't know they could do.
Yeah,
as opposed to being athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's rewarding in a different way, right? Like it's fun to go watch the kids that you work with on Friday night or, Tuesday, Thursday for boys soccer during the week or different things like that. But it's fun for those kids that they kind of can find a space that they can be an athlete in. And that's something that I preach to our department all the time is that, we're giving not only our athletes a space to get better, but we're also giving these other folks who may not get involved in athletics to rub elbows with, our star football quarterback or our star, volleyball player. They get to then be friends. And that's a unique space because I think sport really does provide that. And the weight room is a different layer of that. So you've mentioned it a few times, but I'm curious to hear your answer on this. You said one of the things that's challenging for you is that you have a bunch of different athletes in a given class. You're a small school like Mercer, same way. We're a little bit bigger than you all, but not by much. Unlike maybe some of the bigger schools that have a little bit more resources, a little bit more time, they can maybe block it out by athletics periods where they bring in football for first period and then they bring in basketball and men's and women's basketball for second period. We don't get that luxury at a small school, right? There are a limited amount of spots and everything. They put them all together and it's like 3, 2, 1, good luck, have fun. So that might be your biggest challenge, but what do you see as maybe your 1 or 2 biggest challenges that you have to work through as a athletic performance coach at a smaller high school?
Man, it's just, especially there's so many good strength coaches out there, staying out of my own way, staying out of my head as far as seeing everything, all the content that's out there and telling yourself, I'm not doing enough, or I need to be doing this too. I don't have enough time. I need to be doing this. That'd probably be number one, but I don't know. I mean, you just got, so you deal with the different sports and you might write a different program for every sport. I don't, man. Every student that I have that comes in my class, we do the same program Monday through Friday. I manipulate volume intensity for those in-season athletes. And, like my programming will say back squats, but not everyone is in that room is back squatting. Now it's a general term that's up there. It's on the programming, but when they go to write stuff down, this kid may be front squatting because he's not there yet,
Mm-hmm.
or this kid may not like back squatting, you know? But I don't write a program for every different sport just because the size that I have that I'm dealing with and the amount of weights, it would just be chaos for them trying to be all sharing the same stuff, doing different programs. So
yeah, absolutely. I can speak to that too. Again, coming down from the college level where the expectation is, hey, this is a sport specific program. And then dropping down to the high school level, I remember trying to do that the first couple of times, and I quickly looked around. I went, "Oh my goodness, it's chaos." And when you're dealing with high school age kids, chaos is not a good thing, right? I mean, they talk about it all the time, and I'm going through my graduate level teaching courses. The more that you can create routines in your day that they know what's actually going to happen, the better off that they're going to be. They're more successful that they're going to be. So I feel you on that one. That is something that I remember and last year learning very quickly.
My first year, my first year here, I had that whole fall, and then that spring is when COVID hit. So that whole first year, and then the second year, we were off and on that fall semester, and I didn't really see him on a regular basis till that spring. But that first year, man, I tried writing like a different program for every sport, volleyball. And like you said, man, it was chaos and making sure that these kids were getting their work in and they weren't Zooming and their rest periods were like, it just like looking back, like it's funny to think about, like, you know, what was I thinking? Like, I can't believe that I was able to do it.
Yep. It
wasn't efficient, but I thought I was being big and bad, and I'm going to do a different program for every single sport, and we're going to make gains. And at the end of the day, man, high school kids lift heavy, run, sprint, jump, pick up heavy things. Like, they all need that. You have very few outliers that are ready to do something else completely on their own to make those gains, you know?
Well, and I think it's really unique too, because you talked about it. You're still making changes for them, right? Like, so it might be a freshman that you're coming in that's never squatted before, that's not an athlete. Well, they may be doing a dumbbell squat, right? That's different than a varsity athlete that's been in your program for a couple of years, and you've got them doing a back squat with 225 pounds or more, right? I mean, that you are changing and manipulating the program, but you're figuring out a way to make it work in your space, and your space just looks different. And again, that's why I'm excited about the second kind of half of this program, where we actually kind of get to dig into that a little bit. There are some things that maybe you can point out. Yeah, it says back squat, but yeah, that means 25% of us are back squatting. The kids just inherently know, because I've taught them through their rituals and routines, that, hey, this means back squat for him, but it may mean a front squat for you. It may mean a split squat for you. It may be something a little bit different. So it's for me personally, it's kind of reassuring to hear, because that's something that I've found over the past year is, you know, trying to send these kids in a million different directions doesn't work. Being able to simplify and condense it down to something that they can clearly understand is huge for them. And it makes it so simple. And the analogy that I always go back to is, especially when you're dealing with kids that are playing 3-4 sports and some that are playing in the same schedule, 2 sports in that fall or that winter or that spring, all I'm trying to do is just give them a bigger engine, right? And you can give them a bigger engine with exactly what you just said: sprint, you know, carry something heavy, lift something heavy, squat, do those things, and that's going to make a huge difference for them.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. So we've kind of gone over some of the different things that you're going to see throughout the day. Tell me, what was something that when you got into this job that you kind of didn't expect, you didn't see, and maybe it was what we were just talking about. Maybe it was but I don't want to cheat you and lead you down that rabbit hole. But what was something that you didn't expect when you took over this job back in, what did you say, 2000? Was it 19? 19, that sounds right. Yeah. So 2019, when you took over that job, what was something that you didn't expect?
To have as many students in all my classes that I do now, man. I didn't have anybody on board with me as far as coaches, you know, and I didn't expect them to, you know, just because I got this job doesn't mean they're automatically going to trust me with their athletes. But I mean, I got every sport now, 99.9% of the sports coming to me and pushing their athletes to take my class. I had the baseball coach first, basketball coach after that. I was like, let me make your job easier. Like, but I mean, it took the first couple of years to get everybody on board, but my classes are jam-packed. I had to bring 2 squat racks from home, add them to the weight room just so we could have everybody have their own rack, you know, in groups. I would say that for sure. And just programming for just having all the plethora of athletes and students in there.
Talk to me a little bit about what those numbers look like. So again, I know that you didn't start at completely zero, but you probably only had a handful of classes or a handful of people in those classes. So generally, where did you start to what are you doing? How many kids are you getting through there in each period throughout the day?
So my first year, it's still advanced PE / athletic performance. I wanted to add that on there because my first year I had students signing up thinking that it was just PE. We're going to be playing kickball every day. And we play some small sided games for warm-ups here and there, but I didn't want them taking this class thinking that we're just going to play games, you know?
Yep.
I forget what the dang question was.
Sorry. Yeah, that's all right. Where did you all start numbers wise when you first started out? And then where are you guys at now in about 4 year span?
So my biggest class my first year was probably 23 students, which is still a pretty decent sized class. And my smallest class I had 6 or 8.
Okay.
Now my smallest class is 28 and my biggest class is 36.
Oh, that's a great improvement then.
I've got a 36, a 32, and anywhere from 28 to 30 in my other classes.
I mean, that shows that you're doing all the right things to help these athletes out, right? Because they wouldn't take the class then. They would go like, I'm just going to avoid coach's class and I'm going to go take a different one. So that means that they're carving out space and their time to be able to get that training in, which shows that you're doing something right and the kids are buying into it, which is
I at least try to make the class fun, man. So whether they're getting better at their sport or lifting, I at least think they're having a good time in my class. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, well, let's do this. We'll start slowly making this transition here. I'm going to share my screen. So this next part here, what I've asked Coach to do is kind of give us an overview of his schedule and his outline that he has. So we should, Coach, do you see that now? Do we have the weekly outline? Is that what you see? Man. Okay, yeah. Perfect. So what Coach is going to kind of go through and do, and I'll kind of poke some questions in as we go along. But the big thing, and I told Coach this, and I'm telling all my people that are coming on, is I didn't take the traditional route. When I took over as a strength and conditioning coach at Center College, I was 24, had no formal experience. And I was looking and searching for ways to grow and learn as a younger strength and conditioning coach as I was coming into this. But whenever I logged onto a podcast or something like that, I didn't have an opportunity to actually see a program or to have a coach actually discuss a program. So Coach does a lot of really good things. He and I have had an opportunity to talk for a little bit before we started this. And so I was just going to have him slowly go through. Coach, I'll kind of poke this around and you tell me when we're going to move. I've got the general outline is that we're going to go the weekly outline, go into some programming there, and then finish with some of the KPIs, because I think you do some really interesting things with the KPIs there. So start out, just kind of tell us about what Monday through Friday looks like.
All right. This is the first year I'm kind of doing this format. The past 3 years I've been here, we were weight room on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But I mean, dealing with teenagers, the weekend is not ideal for their recovery. And they didn't, so coming in Monday, they were dragging. So this is the first year I've done Monday where we do just some extensive tempo stuff, plyo stuff, nothing too intensive. And they're just kind of moving in a zone 2, you know, and working on acceleration, resisted sprints, change of direction. And this is the first year that I'm going to start testing as much as I have, or at least try to, and it's gone well so far. So every other Monday I'll be doing, we'll test at the end of class their pro agility, a curb sprint, and then measure their reverse scoop med ball throws.
Gotcha. So, and now when you're doing that, that measuring? How are you doing that measuring? We have lasers. How are we doing
Yeah,
the reverse?
so
Talk to us a little bit about that.
the end of my second year, I applied for a ton of mini grants here in our district, and I got $4,000 and got me the Dasher laser system, got 5 lasers, and then the Just Jump mat.
Okay.
So that's what we do. Any of our sprint type work or agility work that's going to be timed is with Dasher. And I haven't had any problems with them, except I tried to go outside one day and it wasn't working. But for us to go outside, it's such a walk to get to the track that it's going to kill more time in my class than it's worth.
Okay.
And now that COVID's over, our lunch tables are not scattered out. So I get this big, long hallway between the gym and our weight room that we do any type of sprint work. We probably got 50 or 60 yards of just long type foyer area that we can do our fly 10s and 40s on.
That's awesome. That's a great little, and again, getting creative with your spaces that you have. That's awesome.
Yeah. But everything that's not in the weight room, we are either in that hallway or the main basketball gym.
And now are those right next to each other?
Yeah. So we got the main basketball gym, and you'll walk south. That's where you walk out the gym doors, and they have like their concession area, which is that long hallway that we have. It's probably 20 yards wide. And then you've got the weight room right there that's in probably 35 by 45 approximately, which, I mean, it's a pretty big room until you get racks in there, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And 30 students at a time. But especially this year, since we don't have to spread out our cafeteria tables, I've got that huge area that we do our sprints and our heavy trap bar carry day.
Gotcha.
And we'll do the med ball throws. All our med ball stuff will be in the main gym.
Okay.
So I just push the bleachers out, and we have up top that I can push out to, and we've got a ton of space in there. So I mean, if I could get a strip of turf in between there, that would be great. But I mean, I can't complain as far as the space that we have to use for me to do all this. So it's
awesome. That's great. And I'm going to return to a point real quick that you mentioned in there. And I think this is an important point for a lot of strength and conditioning coaches when we start getting into this field. Is there are a lot of things that we learn through, whether you take the CSCS, you go your exercise phys route, whatever it may be, but they would tell you to do your most explosive and then follow it up with your heavier stuff on that Monday, because theoretically we have all that rest, right? That's supposed to be built in, but you found out that's not necessarily what it is. And again, I can attest to this too. I had just this week, I had baseball players that had just finished up some of their summer ball stuff, and they played like 8 games all the way through Memorial Day and came back on Tuesday. Well, you know what? Yeah, they're probably going to be a little fried.
A little shot. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's again, at a smaller school, I think we run into these issues that maybe at a bigger school that we don't. And I'm not trying to overgeneralize with it and paint with too broad of a brushstroke, but interesting that you found that again, what science would say or what the textbook would say is let's get those things done on Monday. Well, that's not always works. So, okay. So we got Monday figured out. That's what we're going to do. Tuesday, what do we got coming up after that?
So Tuesdays when we do our heavy weight room day, and I do a little extensive plyo. All of our warm-ups, man, I don't have a set outline for our warm-ups except our max velo day. Mm-hmm. When we do acceleration, I make sure I do some horizontal movement jumps and everything. I do a ton of bear crawls, crab walks, a lot of stuff where they're on their hands for their warm-ups, and some extensive plyo movement, and just have them move around in space. I mean, today one of our warm-ups was, I need you to do some type of crazy jump, cartwheel, just be stupid, mm-hmm. and try to move around and like get to know your body a little bit, Yeah. So Tuesday we're in the weight room after we get our little warm-up, and we're going heavy for those of them that are there, and some form of squat is going to be our main lift on that day.
Okay.
Then after that, Wednesday, and the reason I've done this Wednesday, Thursday schedule is because most teams don't have games on a Wednesday unless it's usually a makeup game. Even then, they're very few. The past 2 years, our dumbbells only go up to 50. So I would try to do some type of carry, but very few of them were getting any type of stimulus unless they were going to walk like 10 minutes with 50s.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a huge fan of the waiters carries with some of them just because some of their backs, they try to go too heavy and those backs are just extension the whole time. So this year I was like, I'm going to make a day where we load the trap bars up and that's going to be our main thing for that day. And then we do an upper body circuit. And today's the first day I've tried this, getting their verticals. I can't remember his name on Twitter. I saw where he tests verticals after their trap bar carries. I was like, I'm going to try this. And I think I'm going to do it. They do a trap bar carry. They come over there, they get their vertical. They do another trap bar carry. Then we go to the weight room. Their forearms are on fire. None of them have a game that day though. And Thursday is the day we do our max velo day. Usually we'll do some plyo variations and then fly 10s with a 20-yard lead in is where most of us are at right now. Some of them are still at 10. Eventually we're going to get up to where we're running 40s and we can start getting the force velocity profile on all of them and see exactly what they need to work on.
And talk to me a little bit about why you choose to slowly start backing them up. I've got an idea in my head, but I'd be curious to hear your reason why we start, with the 10-yard lead in, move it back to a 20, and then eventually, if the space allows, to a 40.
Some of them, a lot of them aren't used to sprinting at that high a velocity, Not that any of them, I've got a couple of them that can fly, but they like to jump back there quick, but I'm like, we're going to start at 10 today, or you're going to start at 5, and we're going to work our way back just to make sure your hamstrings don't blow out, But I have a majority of them where we're up to 20 yards now, and we're seeing some pretty good top end speed so far.
Right. Go ahead and do a shout out or give me your fun. Like, we hit a good max velo, and what's a really good standard for you all at Murray hitting a good standard? Like, again, you see some crazy times on Twitter. And again, there are some that are at really big schools where they are specialists in track or specialists in, those different types of things. So what's the coolest number you see somebody hit? What got you really excited one day?
I've had one kid that hit 21 miles per hour.
Awesome.
And compared to where we are right now and where we were last year, man, I've got probably 3 or 4 males that are in the 20-mile-an-hour club.
Okay.
And last year, we didn't see those numbers until almost the end of the school year,
Wow. So good starting point then for this year.
It is. And a reassurance that I'm doing a little something right,
Yeah.
And puberty's a wonderful thing too.
No question.
But I figured out that Thursday, we used to do our max velo on Tuesdays last year, but at the end of last year, I started moving them to Thursday just for the recovery process. Once these kids get in a routine, their best times were usually Wednesday or Thursday.
Okay.
So I chose Thursday because, like I said, most of them aren't playing a game on Wednesday. Their last game was probably Tuesday. So hopefully they recovered from that output. And so far it's working. We all like fly 10 day on Thursday, and it seems to fit well with them. It's a nice little central nervous system primer for those that have a game that night.
Yep.
And like I said, anybody that's in season, we cut reps in half, or if you feel good and your times are still steadily going down, I'll let you run another one.
Yeah.
But some kids just won't know when to cut it off. They want to keep beating their time. I was like, we ain't got another 3 or 4 minutes to wait, homie.
Yes, exactly. So when you're doing these max velo days, how many sprints are we getting in? Again, you've told us that we get, 55 minutes in a class, roughly speaking, once you factor in warm up, all that type of stuff, you give them enough rest in between their reps. What are we looking at in terms of how many opportunities we're getting?
So timed sprints, where we go in the hall and we time after our warm-ups, they're getting at least 2. Everybody's getting at least 2. because this year I started doing a rolling average instead of just their PR. I keep their PRs, but then we do a rolling average, and I tell them I want at least 2 every time. And we haven't gone over where anybody's gone over 5 yet.
Okay.
5 sprints, but that's not including the sprints that we're doing leading up to where we're warming up to where we go time in the hall.
Awesome.
So
Okay.
2,
And then
2 at the least and 5 at the most right
okay.
now.
Perfect. And so then we've got Thursday, we've got that, and then we've got Friday.
Friday is my move everything fast day. Unless I've got a kid that is not strong enough to move anything fast, then they concentrate on that strength aspect.
Okay.
This is the day we usually do some type of mobility or foam roller type warm up. It's a little extended. And then we go in the weight room and we do loaded jumps. A lot of them are doing the trap bar jumps. Some of them are just doing dumbbell jumps. Some of them are just not loaded at all right now. And we do a landmine type of push press, and I just tell them everything as fast as you can move it. We keep the volume low, regardless if you're in season or not. And then we got a little circuit after that where we hit a heavy RDL and we're out of there. Friday's their day where they probably have 10, 15 minutes left in my class, and they play spike ball or basketball after they're done.
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. It's great to see, again, something that you have to learn about the high school realm versus being in a college setting, a professional setting, is kids need those.
They need it, man.
Those fun spike ball things, or you mentioned earlier, you had them just move their bodies, right?
Yeah.
And a good example that I can give is today we have our set routine. Again, I'm a big rituals and routine person. So we have our set routine that, they need to be in their certain spot at a certain time. And then we do more or less the same warm up. But today I just switched it up, and instead of doing what I call prime times, but basically straight legged.
Oh yeah, straight leg. Yeah.
I just randomly just said it and see how many kids caught on and see how many were just on automatic versus how many were actually like listening. And I was just like, just hit a gritty for 10 yards, hit it and go. Right? And you could see the ones that were just like,
He's
serious, right?
Serious.
And it was hilarious to watch. Half of them, really got into it, and it livened up the mood. And half of them were like, "Oh my gosh, I can't dance. I've got no rhythm at all." Right? And it made some people feel uncomfortable. And that's okay, right? They had a good time, and they enjoyed just something different than me saying prime times, ready to go. Right? They're so used and so conditioned to that at this point. And I know we're 3-4 weeks into school, but they loved something just a little bit different. And they all kind of looked around, and some didn't know how to dance, and some did, and it was great.
That's what it takes, man. At the high school, they're not getting paid to be there like some of the college athletes, man. So it's a lot of give and take. Like, hey, we can do this if you give me a lot of intent and focus for this time. Then we can go and play basketball. You have some free time if you got homework to catch up on. But I need you to be focused for this 15 minutes that we're in here.
Absolutely. Well, that's great. Okay, so anything else that you want to kind of talk about the weekly outline before we move on to maybe some of the things that we're doing in the weight room?
No, man, I don't have any more input on that.
Okay. All right, perfect. So let's start moving in here. So now I'm going to just say, we'll give the shout out to where the shout out deserves, but I'll let you give him the shout out. Where did you get the programming template from?
Cody Hughes, man.
Yes.
I've got a lot of content from that guy. He's knowledgeable, and he's eager to help people, which is, you can't say enough, but this template has been awesome. It's insane. Like, I'm not a Google Sheets guy. Like, that stuff is over my head. I know how to plug stuff in, but as far as creating this, like him and the Dave McDowell, the one that did the KPI chart, like they're on a different level as far as getting this presentation together.
There's no question about that. It's funny when you sent this over to me, I was like, I recognize that. I've got that too. Now I've manipulated and changed mine a little bit, but the initial, I think you've got to go, and I will look it up. I'll try to put it in the show notes. I think you got to pay like $100 for this template, but it is $100.
It's a game changer, man. And like, you can recreate this and have this go back to this from, hey, this is my programming last year. This is what I'm doing this year. It's been awesome, man. Kids love it.
Yeah, it's huge. And I came from a school that used Team Builder for a while when at the college level. And I had somebody ask me the other day, they're like, why did you choose to go the Google Sheets route and this route? And I'll be interested to hear your answer. But mine was, I felt so much more connected with the data when I was plugging it in. Does it create a little extra time for me? Yes. But what I don't know. Have you had an opportunity to use a team builder or something like that? And then
I also use Rack Coach right now, and I know they have a lot of stuff that you can do, pretty much taking away the sheets. But I pay the basic version for that, and it does a great job of keeping them when you've got 30 kids in there. Hey, this is what I need to be doing right now. I'm following this color. But I've never used any online tool to keep up with programming.
Yeah, so this is a great one. I'll try to put it in the show notes, find a link for people to go, and if they want to look at it. But I think he does an excellent job. It doesn't cost a ton of money, and he just sends it directly to you in a Google Sheet, and it's well worth the money.
And so he's there whenever you have any questions. So
yes, he is. He's been great on that front. So another high school guy doing great things. So I'm going to click through each one of the tabs just so people can kind of see it, and you can kind of give a brief overview, and we can kind of go from there. But tell us what we're looking at with this first tab of the exercise index.
All right. So the only thing that I really keep up with, I don't even keep the categories or anything or subcategories. Only thing I keep up with is just exercises that have been in my program at some point, and those convert automatically where they have the drop down menu when you start programming, and then the training groups, teams, and index, just the class hours.
Yes, absolutely. Great. So moving on, player database, again, not overly, it's exactly what the name sounds like, but go ahead, give them a quick overview and explain what the difference is in the manual inputs versus training maxes, different things like that.
All right. So this is obviously just player database, and this helps me categorize each class. And then the manual input training maxes, once we get some maxes, I'm able to put those in according to what movements I'm doing. You can add any of those that you want. And then you got conversions over here to the right with the red that will convert any max lift that you want to get to a percentage of anything else. That's been a game changer too, when we had a split squat cycle and we converted their split squat maxes into their what would be an estimated back squat. Again, all of this is over my head as far as how he Google Sheet whiz that he is. I don't know, but it's been great for me and keeping up with their maxes and any conversions I need.
That's awesome. So now you've got your main ones in here. Now this is just me being nosy and poking a little bit, but are these the typical ones that you really try to focus in on, or does it change cycle to cycle? Talk to me a little bit about what your big rocks in terms of program. We're going to get into it here, I think, in a second, but just some of those main ones that you're going to hang your hat on, you're going to cycle through.
So this year we did Zercher squats last year. Everybody started on Zercher squats. Every student hated them. I had a few that liked them. So this year, the big rocks that I'm keeping up with are their squat, just a max, whether they're at back squat or front squat. This is the first year that I'm not doing barbell bench press, or it's not in my program yet.
All right, dive down that rabbit hole for me. Tell me why it's been removed, right? Because it's simplifying in high school. So tell me why you thought it was a good idea to remove it.
There's so many of my students that's when they go lift outside of school, that's all they do is bench press. And just a time issue, a space issue as far as the way I want my outline to go this year. We do dumbbell bench, and I have had so many students say, when are we going to do barbell bench again? I'm like, we're doing bench press, man. You guys are getting a lot more stabilization going on. I said, we will get to barbell bench again. I don't know when, but I'll let you guys taste that at some point. But as far as right now, for this first 9-week cycle, squat and an RDL are the only main ones that I'm keeping up with as far as maxes go.
Gotcha. Joe, most people in their head are going to go, I see the squat. I understand why he would, continue to track that. Talk to me a little bit about why you decided the RDL was an important one to track.
I just like the hamstring recruitment you get, that even the low back work that you get more so than traditional deadlift. Now we haven't done a traditional deadlift probably since the first year I was here. We maxed out on trap bar last year, but you get in those positions where students, especially when you got 30 in there trying to do too much, you don't see every single rep, and then they come to the next day, my back doesn't feel good. Like, you went too heavy. I need you to consult me, come get me, when you're trying to lift heavy, so we can make sure everything is intact.
Yeah.
I just like the RDL. There's very few kids right now that I have that are trying to load that up heavy right now, which is fine. It's perfect with me. And as long as we can hammer in that form, I just think it checks a lot of boxes, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's interesting. I've been using a good morning in a RDL as an accessory movement. I found the same thing. The kids actually really focus on it. And it honestly surprised me at first because I thought that they would do it as they do with a lot of things where they're just like, I'm going to load it heavy and I'm just going to move forward. They actually really pay attention to and it surprised me. This is the first year I've really done it extensively through our program. And they really focus in, and they're like, Coach, will you take a look at this? And it's funny the exercises that the kids will focus in on those things.
It is. It's surprising. And I can't tell you how many students last year and even at the beginning of the year, like, my hamstrings are they're tight. I need to stretch them out. I was like, I guarantee you that they're just weak.
Yeah.
I guarantee you you don't know how to use those suckers.
Mm-hmm.
The number of students that have said, my hamstrings feel great. Like, this 3 weeks of doing RDLs, man, I'm sure that's it. Sprinting probably has a lot to do with that too, but those are the two that I'm going to be keeping up with for just a little while.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, good. Anything else that you want to mention on this tab so far?
No, man, you can head to that next one.
All right. So rack assignment. This should be fairly quick, but again, I think this is one of the most valuable resources that he does give you because how it loops into the Sheets version next. So
everything just got a spot.
It does. And this is one of my favorite ones. I knew how to work Google Sheets and Excel. I did not know it at this level. And I was like, this is huge. And I know it's for a high school. Again, when I was at the college level, I told them to go to their rack and they knew what rack they were going to, and they were going to go to it each and every single time. And the high school kids, man, they might end up on one rack one day and one on the other if you don't keep them together. So talk to us a little bit about this, how it works, different things like that, so that if someone is interested in this, they've got a better idea of it.
So this, you've got a drop down menu. Like if you were to click on second hour, I know you just have viewer rights, but you're able to put everyone, if you put them in the right class in that exercise index, then you click that over there that you're on, and it'll show everybody from that class. And then when you go over here to the right and click second hour, you just push those in and they go to each rack. And then once you go to their template, it'll have those either 3 or 4 students, athletes at a rack, what rack they're at. When we first started going into racks and following, they were writing stuff down in my first year. I tried to divide them up according to how much weight they were lifting, and they hated it. So this year and last year, I've just, our first couple weeks, we're not going to have our sheets we're keeping up with. You're going to go in there, be with your friends, get at a rack with your friends. I don't care if they lift a ton more than you. We got transition time in between our lifts for you to change weights. I want you to be happy where you're at, and that's been a game changer. Let them go to a rack where they're comfortable at instead of how much they lift,
Oh, absolutely. And again, it's funny to hear you talk about it and very ironic because I found the same thing. First year, it was, again, the college aspect came out of me where I need you to be efficient with your time while you're in here and go ahead and get to the rack with somebody that's your same size that, so we don't have to, change a bar or one person have to squat really low. Tell you what, high school kids, they don't care. They'll take the weights on and off and they'll be with somebody that squats a 45 and just a 45-pound bar. And then their best friend squats 225. They don't care. They're just happy to be there with their friends.
They won't be there.
They got an hour where they get to talk and listen to music loudly. And if the worst thing that they've got to do is shift a weight on and off.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
That's awesome. Okay. So yeah, again, I think this is great. And this really ties into it. If someone really does want to, talk about this more, I think Coach can talk about it. I can talk about it. I think it's a great resource. So, but let's go on to actual programming now in the weight room. We are looking at what this generally does. And I'm going to zoom out just real quick so everybody can see kind of what day 1, day 2, and then day 3. And then we'll kind of go through each one and you can kind of explain what we're looking at. But when this prints off, and correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, but this will print just on one sheet, right? That's how mine works. It just prints out.
He's got it set to where the dimensions, it fills up a whole sheet.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So
we'll zoom. Click on that plus arrow above the A column over there.
The plus arrow
right above the.
Oh, yes. Good. This is, I might not be able to open this up.
It's all right.
Okay.
But I can give you access at some point.
Yeah.
You click on that and it'll draw the sheet aside where you put any of the maxes you've input on that player database will automatically, whatever percentage you're wanting to use, will shoot right here in this blank spot that says weight.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you have a max for and you want them to go off for a prescribed percentage,
mm-hmm.
you put that in on the stowaway sheet, and then it automatically just generates for each player or athlete the weight you want them to be at, which is pretty freaking awesome.
Oh, it's great. It makes life simple. And you can see the at the very top here, the formula that he's got to go through to get that done. But yeah, coach is right. If you put in their percentage and it's off on this side where it's the collapse down cell, you can actually put in 50%, 60%, 70%, and then we're out, or something heavier and change it around. But then it'll auto populate what those numbers should be. And it's great. Again, especially once you can get the kids with somewhat of a working max, man, it really simplifies the process, because then they're just changing weights instead of you already mentioned it, but you can turn your back for a minute and all of a sudden, if you don't have your kids going correctly, they're going to load it up with 225 and then end up crashing to the ground. And you're like, you can hardly squat 95.
It's crazy. Every day is a max day for some of them, man.
Oh, yes. It always is. Oh, yes, absolutely. Okay. So talk to us a little bit about day 1. So we're looking up at the phase here, cycle. Looks like it's your first, is it 4 weeks? Is that
4
right?
Weeks, yeah. And that's what this will chunk in 4 weeks at a time. And then I'll pretty much recreate this and then add the next 4 weeks into that.
Okay, perfect. So we're looking at first 4 weeks. And again, for somebody looking at it, they've got, this is Lincoln English. This is Peter, and then this is Jeremiah, and that's how they would look at it. But talk to us about the exercise selection, why you chose to do it, right? If we look back on the weekly outline on would day 1 be Tuesday for us? Is that
Tuesday,
correct?
So okay. Tuesday is day 1, day 2 would be Wednesday, and then day 3 is that Friday.
Okay, perfect. So we're looking at a Tuesday. They've kind of had, again, if we look back at the weekly outline, they've had some type of, we're not going to call it a complete regeneration because they are doing something, but it's allowing them to come back from the weekend and not be completely dead. So we're going in. This is going to be our full body, heavier lift. So talk to us a little bit about exercise choice and help paint the picture too, because I think this is important. Like what equipment you have available, how you rotate them through, if you got 3 people on a rack, different things like that.
So we have 9 racks in there right now, and they all have pull-up bars on them. 7 of them are super nice, and 2 of them are, like I said, I brought from home that they get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
And every rack has a bench. So this first here, which would just be back squat and single arm dumbbell row, we've got the benches rolled out. They're able to get in the racks and squat. And this is the one where we have a ton of rest. Like they'll back squat, they'll have 40 seconds to back squat to get 5 reps in. They're resting, then they'll have another rest period, and then they're doing single arm dumbbell row, rest period, and then they're back to squatting again.
Right.
But before we even start, we've got our warm up. They come in there, dry reps with the bar, dry reps with dumbbell if they're doing goblet squats. And then they work up to a nice RPI of 5 right now. We're not based off percentages just yet. But I like doing the back squat and then giving them a break and then doing some type of horizontal pull. It's not very strenuous on them. It's not going to affect their squat by the time they've got that break and then get back in there. And then go to an RPI of 6, bumping it up a little. This is usually the phase where I'm like, try to add 2.5, 5 pounds of what we did last week.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of the athletes that have had me, they remember their percentages and they're kind of going off a percentage in their head,
Okay.
kind of filling it out. It's a lot of just having them, if they feel good one day, come in there and put a little more on the bar, as long as your form's right. And if you don't feel as good, don't load it up as heavy,
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely a chance for them to try to get some heavy movement in early in the week. And another shout out to Cody. I've got a little printout that I recreated on my own, but he's got a red, yellow, and green light that all my I've printed it out. It's up in the weight room as soon as you walk in. Every in-season athlete looks, hey, we're on red. We got a game today. We're on red.
Yep.
They already
Okay,
know.
so talk to us about that. He calls it the stoplight system. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay, so talk us through that. I know we don't have it posted here, but you can go look it up. I think you can find it on Google or something.
Yeah, you'll be able to
that.
see it anywhere.
But talk to us about that, because I do a similar thing with my athletes. Talk us through what that may look like. If I'm a boys soccer plays on a Tuesday.
Right.
We've got a game against somebody who. What are we looking at when we're looking at that sheet?
So this is what I tell most of them. Like, you have the option. If you feel good, or if you're playing JV or you're not getting minutes, don't feel like you have to cut everything in half.
Mm-hmm.
This is just an option and a guide for how you feel that day, since you do have a game. But they walk in, if it's on red, which means it's a game day or a playoff game, or even a scrimmage game, they're going to cut all their reps in half, and they're going to cut the last set off of every workout.
Okay.
If they're on yellow, which is a day before a game, then they're just going to cut their reps in half and do all their sets.
Gotcha.
And anything 2+ days out, you're on green, which is mean you're doing everything we're doing.
Yeah. Awesome. Again, another great resource that he put out. Very simple, and something that the kids can understand, which is the most important part.
And it's also been awesome for, like, you'll have students, hey, Coach Franklin, I don't feel very good today. I'm like, well, look, you've been sitting all day. How about we go on red? We get our work in. You're not maxed out. You get out of there quick.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, all right, that sounds great. I'll do red today. And they're still getting their work in. So it's an awesome bargaining tool for those kids that aren't feeling it that day.
Yes, no question. Okay, so we get our back squat in. We hit a set of 5, set of 3 in between. We're doing some dumbbell rows, and then we are moving to a dumbbell bench. So this is something that you said that you've kind of changed in recent years and are sticking with the dumbbell. Kind of explain that process. But again, talk us through, why you decided to pair off the pal-off presses or pal-off holds with it, kind of thinking behind maybe some sets and reps there.
All right, so the next 4, so we got tier B and tier C. This is where we do our circuit.
Okay.
So if they're looking at rack coats, there's 4 separate boxes, and everybody 4 max at a rack.
Okay.
So you might have 2, 3, or 4 in a rack. But that's the great thing about rack coats. I've got the exercise reps, any cues that I want that's up here, and I've got 4 TVs in my weight room in each corner. And all 4, we got dumbbell bench, pile-off press hold, single leg bridge, and then side lunge. It's just in a square, and there's a color for each one. And I've got 40 seconds that they have to get those reps in.
Okay.
And then it'll just rotate. So you just follow this, whatever square colored block that you're started out on, you'll follow that the whole movement. And that's been awesome for keeping them on task, making sure they're not skipping their reps or trying to speed through it. So we do that every time we go to the weight room. We've got a core lift where they're resting a lot, and then we do a little circuit.
Gotcha.
So we do dumbbell bench press, and like I said, our dumbbells only go to 50. So I've got some strong kids in there that are like, man, this ain't. I'm like, well, then do more reps, or what? I preach all the time: tempo, slow it down. Time under tension is what we're looking for. So take those 50s and give me a 3 countdown. But I like the dumbbell bench so far. Just, it's funny to see how much of them that love barbell bench press are not great at stabilizing the dumbbells in their hands. So I think that's going to be great for them when we do go to barbell bench press. Hopefully they'll feel a lot stronger, and we got these stabilizer muscles helping this fixed bar now instead of dumbbells.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So we're doing this again, heavier back squat. And then we're going to go into this circuit of dumbbell bench, pal off, single leg bridge, side lunge. I'm sure over time you found one spacing. It maybe works out well to have these types of exercises to roll together. They're not necessarily competing. Talk to me about why you chose. And I know it's not the same for every time that they walk into the weight room. It might be for 4 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, but eventually it's going to change. But why did you particularly, in this instance, starting off the school year, you chose those 4 for a particular reason? Kind of talk us through about why.
Man, everything, and it comes down to the space and the equipment you got and what is going to be the most bang for my buck. So really, I've got one person in the rack. So they roll the benches back in after that first tier. They're in the rack doing dumbbell bench. The bands are tied to the left of each rack. So I've got them in between the racks doing the pal-off press hold. And then we've got all the space in the middle for them to do their single leg bridge and their side lunges. So most high school strength coaches, it's space is going to be a lot of why you pick certain exercises, and hopefully those certain exercises, you're going to get your most bang for your buck.
No question about it. Okay. So then we finished up, we got our heavy squat, we did our, 4-tier circuit, and then we're going to go on to what it looks like our last one, tier D, split squat, iso hold. Now this is something that has gone around Twitter quite a bit recently, but it seems like more and more people are really liking it. Tell me why you like it and why it's something that you've invested your time in.
I think it's just anybody that's got knee pain, man, and we're getting into that hip area too. I had a lot of kids last year, not a lot, probably a handful, some patellar tendon pain going on in their knee, and we started doing heavy dumbbell iso holds, and the pain went away. And there's just so much research. I can't think of how to pronounce his last name correct. Jake, I believe.
Yep. Yep.
I subscribe to his daily emails, man. He's just sending all kind of research about, the iso holds and what it does for your tendons. And you're in and out. It's 1 minute right there. We clean up and we're done for the day.
Yeah.
Now, we do 30 seconds regardless. And I say if 30 seconds is easy, start holding the dumbbells and loading that sucker up.
Yeah. Have we gotten to a point where we surpass the dumbbells and we go to a barbell? And I don't even know how we would describe it, going basically underneath their legs
like
where they're
the
holding.
Jefferson type.
Yeah, thank you. Yep.
Setup. We have not yet, man. I know kids, this is one that kids love to hate because we're all right there at the end of our workout.
Yep.
They're all together doing the same thing and wanting to cuss each other out, but none of them ever try to get out of it. I ain't had a kid say, "Can I go to the bathroom?" No, man, we got 1 minute. You can hold it. I haven't had any of that. They love to hate it. I don't know if we'll get to that point where they're loading the barbell up in my classes, maybe if I've got some after school stuff or individual stuff, just as far because of time.
Okay.
Time it would take to load the barbell up. But I might have some students out there that try to test the limits.
No, I'm sure you'll find one. I'm sure the one that will try to test his limits too is the one, he or she, that probably shouldn't be, but they will try to. Okay, so we've gotten day one done. And then if we look back at our weekly outline, is Wednesday going to be did you say that was
Wednesday? Wednesday is the day. The next day we go back.
Right. Wednesday.
Touch a little more upper body on Wednesday than I did on Tuesday.
Okay, so and you talked about when we were going through the weekly outline, you said trap bar carry, and you're going to try pairing it up with some jumps this time. So they're gonna go down and back a few times in between. They're going to get their jumps in, and then they're going to come in. We're going to hit something that's a little bit more upper body. Now, when we do this one, I know in the last day we go tier B. We go tier B with the paddle off press, and then tier C and the accessory. Do we do the same thing over here?
I do the same thing. Once we're done with trap bar carries and getting our verts, we go in, and I mean, it's exactly 5 minutes and 50 seconds that we do this little circuit right here. Their forearms feel like Popeye, and then we're done for the day. They like the little upper body pump.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. And here's the thing, especially when you're working with some males that are 14 to 18 years old, they want the upper body pump.
Yeah. They want to feel swole.
Yeah, they do. That's
body
awesome.
Swelling up.
That's awesome. So any particular reason, chin ups, push ups, great body weight exercises, do you choose them beyond that, or is there any particular reasoning?
I like the body. I'm a huge chin up guy. I believe it's a great, test for upper body strength. And I feel like everybody should be able to do a chin up and a nice push up.
Nice. Awesome.
And these are, 2 sets of 5, but I've got kids that have dumbbells between their feet doing 2 sets of 5. Each individual student knows this is what I need to do to progress. And they write all this stuff down, at the end of the workout. I had a 35 between my feet, or I had a weighted vest on today.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with push-ups. I'm like, 2 sets of 10 is too easy and you've got good form. Get a band around you, add a vest, go slow, write all this down, because what you measure, you improve. And it's awesome to see the kids that have bought into that keeping up with their stuff.
That's awesome. And so you talked about progressions, right? So we're getting to the kids that are, again, maybe some of your better athletes or some of that really invest in the weight room. How about regressions for these? I know everybody has a slightly different take on how they would do that. How do you maybe regress some of your chin-ups and your push-ups?
So chin-ups, this is the first year. I usually have where we've got our arms on the squat rack and wrap a band around it. But none of the ones that were doing the bands were getting better at chin-ups. They just liked bouncing on the band,
Yeah.
So this year we're getting rid of the bands unless you absolutely need it for assistance to get to the top.
Mm-hmm.
But we're doing, if you can't do chin-ups, everybody's either trying to do a hold at the top or they're going down a 7 count. And then the next week, a 5 count. And hopefully I think I've had 1 or 2 girls that have gotten their first chin-up in the past 3 weeks we've been in there.
That's great.
Which was a lot more than when we were just bouncing on the bands,
Oh, yeah. Well, and you want to talk about girl getting excited or female getting excited.
That's awesome, man. It's great to be a part of.
It's great. And again, you're going to get your guys are going to get all excited about their bench press and their squat. You watch a girl's face light up because she's 14 and she got her first chin up. I mean, that's huge.
It is.
And they love it.
It's awesome.
That's great.
So as far as that, eccentrics, unless they absolutely need a band to get up there. Gotcha. I have the bench is rolled in, they jump off the bench, go down as slow as they can. Push-ups, we elevate it. We've got 2 of the janky squat racks that I brought up here, have the old school bars that come out. So we're able to raise those up or down.
Okay.
And I probably have 3 or 4 in every class that need to go elevated. And they know this is the height I was at this week. Next week, I'm going to get 2 sets of 10 elevated. Awesome. It irks me to see when they try to go do a push up and those elbows are just chicken winging bad.
No, yeah.
Like, you're going to do more damage than you are getting better in that position. So let's start here. And most of them are able to swallow their pride and hit those regressions.
Yeah, well, and I think you hit on a very important part, especially as I've, again, gotten into this high school realm, is so much of our job beyond trying to make them stronger, better athletes, is to make sure that they know how to lift appropriately. Again, I didn't have a strength and conditioning coach when I was in high school. I did, but it was the PE guy that kind of had the short, the drawstring hanging out of the pants and, polo tucked in. And it was like, just do whatever you want. He was a great guy. He wasn't a weight room guy, and that's understandable. But, you talking about in terms of what they're doing with their elbows, what they're doing with their shoulder, those are so great life lessons that they can take with them for the rest of their time, right? Again, yes, we want to make them stronger. Yes, we want to make them faster. But there are some things that are like that are just so important that they may never, ever think about, but can help them for the rest of their life.
Absolutely, man. Taking care of your body is a great thing to do.
Absolutely.
You learn at an early age, then you're ahead of the game.
No, you absolutely are. Okay, and then we've got day 3. So this is Friday, correct?
This is Friday. We did fly 10s the day before, or some type of sprint work. And like I said, this is usually football game day. This is usually a day after soccer games on Thursday, volleyball matches on Thursday. So I've been able to get a lot more buy-in by saying, we're going to go light today, and I just want you to move it as fast as you can.
Yep.
We're not going to be in here for 2 days. Whether you recover or not, that's up to you, but I know you're not going to be in the weight room for the next 2 days.
Yep.
And I think it's a great CNS primer for, football that day. Sometimes you're running some football athletes that don't want to do anything on game day.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been great to see from my first year here that a lot of them look forward to getting this explosive movement stuff in before a game on Friday.
That's great. It was great that you were able to sell it that way too. Hey, look, I'm not here to destroy the athletes. I'm here to help make sure they're primed and ready to go. And I think
so. I tell all of them, help me, help you.
Yes.
Have I ever made you do something that wasn't going to benefit you down the road? And they're like, no, Coach Frank.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's do this.
Okay, so you come in and it looks like you got a trap bar jump, or as you said, you might even regress it, right, to maybe some dumbbell jumps if that's what the athlete needs. You got some banded assistant jumps. So is that us looping a band around the top of a squat rack and jumping?
Yeah, this is the first year that I've done the overspeed training, and I want to stick it in. The whole year I've just read a bunch of research on the benefits of overspeed training, and this seems the safest way as opposed to trying to hook up some bands and make someone run faster than their legs can keep up with.
Yep.
But their body doesn't know the difference of band assisted sprint and a band assisted jump. But yeah, this first tier, they'll do their trap bar jumps, and as soon as they get done with their jumps, they'll go to the pull-up rack, and they've got band assisted jumps. And then they'll rest probably 45 to a minute. And then they'll go to the landmine push press, where we're sort of set up laterally and just moving it. I tell every student, I want to hear the weights click if you got weights on there. If you're just doing the bar, I want to hear the landmine setup click. Now, I do have some students that are not strong right now, not able to create a lot of force. So this movement is just a straight, let's get stronger at this movement. And the students that are in that boat, I mean, they know that. They write this stuff down and keep up with it.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Okay. So we get through that grouping, and then we're going to go into the RDL. That's something that you said you're going to track. Talk to me about why an RDL on Friday as opposed to maybe earlier in the week or vice versa.
Right now, I just want them getting used to doing this lift and doing it properly before we start loading it up. And they've got the weekend where they're not in the weight room the next 2 days. Eventually, I'm going to get to where the volume is lower on this and we're going heavier. Mm-hmm. But right now, this is a part of, and this is type of you'd say maybe a mobility type circuit. The setups is the only thing that they're going to need during this circuit. They'll have RDLs, crab hip lifts, hanging knee tuck, and then bear crawl holds. Only thing they're using any weight on is the RDLs in this circuit. Right now, we're just doing one set. And like I said, they're out of there and they've got 10 or 15 minutes left to play basketball, volleyball, or we got spike ball set up in there for them. But they do RDL, go straight to a crab hip lift, which I love for any type of throwing athlete, just for, the scapular stability in that. And it's fun just to see a lot of these kids try to get in the tabletop position.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
And then we do the hang and knee tuck. I wanted to fit some type of dead hang in without them knowing it. So I added in, I've got maybe a handful of students that like doing the dead hangs. I'm a huge fan of them, but they hate them.
Mm-hmm.
And what I run into is them dropping from the bar before. I mean, like, yeah. I know you can hang at least a minute and you're coming down in 15 seconds. Like, yeah. Come on, man.
Yeah.
But I did the hang and knee tuck to get them hanging on that bar for at least 30 seconds, doing the knee tuck raises, and just the lumbo-pelvic stability that goes with that. I've got a lot of sprinters that have zero control over their pelvis.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that'll help with that. And same thing with the bear crawl hold, man. I saw a coach doing this. I can't remember her name. She's got a lot of good content, but so you got the foam roller, you're just in a bear crawl position and you're squeezing it between your knees, working those adductors the whole time and trying to keep that pelvis stable the whole movement.
Awesome. That's great. And then they hit one more split squat iso hold. And
one more split squat iso hold for the week. We usually go 20 seconds instead of 30, just because they think I'm doing them a favor.
Yeah.
And they're more prone to do it that way. But split squat iso hold, and then that's all she wrote for the week.
All right, that's awesome. Then they get to go play a little spike ball, a little something like that, and then they're out either Friday night lights playing football or they're playing some type of games on the weekend.
Game on the weekend.
As we wrap up here, so I think the one thing which I think is great, and this is why I wanted to do a podcast that is also has video content with it. Somebody that looks at this might go, Coach, man, we've got like a couple sets of 5 on back squat and we're pretty low volume, right? So why would somebody looking at this, why would you make the argument that, hey, we're giving them the right amount of dosage for what they need?
Because I have them all year, man. When you add up 5 days for a whole year, they're gonna make, and they have that. It worked for me last year. Kids were getting stronger. We were jumping higher. I'm just low volume is a lot easier for them to buy in than them coming in and not being able to walk for a week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're going to be a little sore, especially if you haven't lifted or you haven't been routine with it. But I'm not a fan of just making someone so sore that they can't walk or want to come back to my class.
Yeah. And I think that's important too, right? I mean, you've got to get what the community that's in Murray is going to buy into, right? And that's going to be different in every place. I mean, everybody's a little bit different. Every community is a little bit different. So, if you can get them to buy into it, fantastic. Because, right, I mean, you even said it. When we get done with our trap bar carries, we got a 5-minute circuit here. Is that right?
Yeah,
and then they got some biceps, and then they're out, right? I mean, you're already working on a limited amount of time, but You're right. You get maybe not 365 days with them, but you get a lot of time with these kids.
Yeah. I mean, close to 200, 250 with some of them. And I preach it all the time. If you show up and you put the work in, like, you're going to get better.
Right.
If you don't suck at your sport already.
Well, and
I tell them all the time, like, this is a means to an end. Like,
yes,
if you're not good at your skill work, like, being in the weight room is not going to help you be better at shooting a basketball.
Absolutely. Okay. Last thing, and I know I've taken up quite a bit of your time, but I appreciate you going through this. So this is something that you sent me that I've actually never seen before. So I was really excited when you sent me, because I knew going into it, I'm going to definitely learn something. So tell us what we're looking at, what we're playing with, and explain a little bit about your KPIs there.
So this is Dave McDowell's KPI dashboard. He's got a KPI dashboard and then a long-term athlete dashboard that I haven't messed around with enough, but this is what I keep up with all the tests that we run and keep for a leaderboard. So if you'll go to data over there.
All right.
This is where I keep everything we do, and I'm still looking to add. I got to figure out how to add more categories without it messing up the other ranges. So I've got to reach out to Dave for that. But we keep up with a 10-yard fly. We keep up with a fly 10 average that they do, their vertical jump, broad jump, med ball throws, their pro agility, and I'm going to start adding in momentum and RSI. I really like the momentum category that I've seen on Twitter, and I was like, I need a chance to get some of my bigs up on the board that can move but aren't running like one flats.
Yes.
So I'm going to add those in, and I keep up with every test that we do. I put their names already in, put the date, and then put their times in every week, and it'll shoot out to a leaderboard of the top 25 that we print out. And yeah, you can click on it if you want.
Yeah.
And you can switch according to male or female. You click on the different boxes, and it'll set up your top 25. And if you go to the KPI dashboard, at the end of each 9 weeks, I'll have their pictures inputted from their Infinite Campus that we use to keep up with our rosters. And this will tell them exactly all these graphs over here, every single test that they've done, whether they've gotten better at it. It'll compare them to the rest of the students in my class with this little plot down here. I mean, it's been awesome to compare, have these students, get these kind of like their report card at the end of the 9 weeks on, were you present? How many days did you miss? Like comparing it to another student. Well, you only got 5 fly 10s in, and I've only got 2. Like, well, you haven't been consistent, man. So there's a reason you probably haven't been progressing, but this is awesome. This is another Google whiz that I can't even, my brain can't fathom creating all these formulas. Like,
yeah,
a different ball game.
No question. And that's the thing. And that's what's great about the way that we've been able to connect through Twitter. Instagram. I mean, that's how we got to doing this podcast is we just reaching out and saying, hey, we got an idea. Let's try this out. Which is great. I think this is awesome. When you start talking about creating buy-in, we talked about, hey, how can you prove to your kids that this lower volume, not beating you up, is actually working? Well, here it is. Here's your opportunity to see, like, hey, you're making progress. So we're doing something right. And then, I go on to the next level of thinking is, hey, this is a great opportunity to connect with our community and talk to our parents, right? And schools are so looking for those opportunities to get parents involved. And it can be something as simple as like, hey, Johnny's doing a great job here. Look at his dashboard. He's done great. Look how he's progressed over these past, 9 weeks, 18 weeks, a year. And parents always want to hear the good thing, right? We usually call them over the bad.
When it's bad, yeah.
But that we can actually provide this, or that you can provide this for the community of Murray, is fantastic. This is something that not everybody is doing. So that's awesome. That's fantastic. And so I'm assuming then over here, this cell collapses down.
Yeah, it'll collapse. I'll collapse that whenever I print these out for them. So it's just this KPI chart right here that they're able to see all the tests that we've done and where they're at from the first date we did these to current progress.
That's awesome. I love it. And so if people are looking to find this is one I'm not familiar with, so I'm gonna have to go look it up as well. Who is the person that designed it? Who's the contact on that?
Dave McDowell and DMS Strength. I
yes.
believe.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
He lives in Canada. We've had a couple of Zoom meetings where he's tried to walk me through some of this. I'm like, man, I'm still not understanding how you're getting these formulas. He's like, just share your document with me and we'll try to get something set up. He's been super helpful. Like I said, there's a ton of coaches out there that are just, they're eager to feed information and help the strength and conditioning community. And it's helped me.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not great, but I feel like I'm a lot better today than I was yesterday, which is pretty good in my book, you know.
Listen, that's what we ask our athletes to do, right? Just come in, be just a little bit better than they were yesterday, and that's going to help them out a ton. So, well, this is great. Okay, so anything else in terms of weekly outline, programming, dashboard, anything like that you want to touch on before we start wrapping up here?
No, man, nothing to do with that. My thing is just build a relationship with the students. That's the best way to get buy-in. You know, ask how they're feeling, ask how they're doing. That's the quickest way to get buy-in from them. Let them know that you care.
Exactly. At the end of the day, they really don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right?
That's facts. Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing, especially with high school kids. I worked at a very fortunate school at Center College where most of them had 2-parent households and did all that. That's not what you get at the high school level. You're going to get every socioeconomic range. You're going to get different religions. You're going to get a lot of different things, and they got to know that you're there for them first and foremost. So, well, that's awesome. So, Coach, as we wrap up here, tell listeners how they can reach out to you, follow your work, do different things like that. Go ahead. This is your time to kind of shamelessly plug either Twitter, Instagram, email address, anything like that.
All I have is Twitter. I'm not even sure my handle name. It might be like Tyride20. I'm not sure. Tyler Franklin, Murray Athletic Performance Coach. I don't put out a ton of stuff, but I'm more of a sponge when it comes to Twitter. I stay out of any heated arguments or any of that, but if you want to give me a follow, go for it.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Coach. I appreciate it. This has been a great opportunity, and thanks so much for coming on.
I appreciate you having me, Jeremy.
Okay.